Hello, everyone. Good evening. Once again, I'm here with Sachin this week on an interesting conversation related to listening. This is one conversation which Sachin specializes in, so I'll be the one asking a lot of questions today and see where this conversation goes as we look forward to the responses Sachin gives. For those of you who are
I don't
watching,
think we need to introduce me
yeah, so
anymore. I think we have to just carry on. Yeah.
by now, you already hopefully know us. If you don't, please check out our profile and you will have details about who we are, what we do. As far as the topic today is concerned, because we've had topics earlier related to working with trauma, working with different issues that clients may have, and especially focusing on because the last two topics especially focused on psychology students and psychologists on how they can work with clients to help them address certain issues. One of the key skills that is required for all practitioners, actually, to be fair, everyone, irrespective of whether you are a practitioner or not. But while we focus on practitioner, the skills that are required for practitioners, that there is the key to the entire therapy process is being able to listen, is the listening skill, right? And there are it's a very interesting topic. There are facets to listening that at times we've not even thought of, that we have not even considered, and yet all of them play an important role in the way we interact with each other in general and in the way, obviously, therapy takes place. So, Sachin, before we begin and before we jump into this subject, your first thought on listening.
On listening, I mean, this is my bread and butter. Um, I feel it is the most underrated life skill. Um, I think it has been seen in a study as well. And I mean, multiple studies have shown that active listening skills are one of essential life skills, especially as a world as we are moving more and more towards mentally, cognitively uh, oriented world. We are shifting towards that. So the challenges that we are experiencing in communication, because for mind to be active, it's the communication becomes the currency. And if the basic skill of are you able to understand what the other person is conveying, and are you able to help the other person understand what you are trying to convey, I feel this is something that majority of us have downplayed or have not even considered, because listening is something that we don't really take account of. And so yes, it's my bread and butter. I believe that it is anyone who has to use communication in any sort of way to live, survive, grow, then this is your bread and butter. And I do have a few thoughts on it that I would love to share.
Perfect. And just before we go ahead, for all of you who are watching us, if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, please feel free to ask them in the chat box, and I'm sure we will take them up as we go along. Also, our primary focus today, as far as listening is concerned, will be on relationships and couples and why it's so important um, for people in a relationship, especially when they are going through conflicts, to be able to listen to each other, and how effective listening can hopefully prevent us from reaching a place where we really think that we are in major conflict. And lastly, we will see if we have enough time to be able to explore the application of listening skills also in the area of therapy in general. Right? So, Sachin, let's just start with this, right? When we say active listening in a relationship, what does it really mean? And what does active listening mean? And what are the other forms of listening which are not active?
All right, perfect. So this is how I would normally start any training as well. It's first to understand what do you mean by these terms. So we need to understand the terms first. So when before we say active listening, we have to be able to use that there is listening part. And then what is listening, and is it different from anything else? So over here we are trying to differentiate it from hearing. Now, I know usually we can just interchange between these two words, but when we are talking about hearing, it is about the physiological process of sound hitting your eardrums and you being able to perceive the information, right? The sound based information. Now, however, between hearing and listening, the difference is attention. What do I mean is, at any given point of time in your environment, in my environment, there are multiple sounds, that we are privy to. But right now, if you are focused in onto my sound and me, then essentially all the surrounding sounds kind of get downplayed a bit by our mind. So this attention, so listening, first and foremost, listening does not begin till attention has been narrowed down to that entity. So without your complete attention, listening does not even begin. So there goes, if you're planning to have any conversation with Instagram while you're trying to browse through Instagram or YouTube or whatever else, if you're distracted in any form or shape, listening has already stopped, right? Now then, if this is listening, then what is active listening? What we mean by active listening is, I mean, if there's active listening, then there is something as passive listening. Now, when we say passive listening, this is not the same as hearing. No, in passive listening, because it is listening, attention is there. But imagine if you were listening to radio, or you were listening to your favorite musician playing your favorite song, right? You're completely focused in on the music itself, on the song itself. You are not having to sing it back necessarily. The singer is not able to hear you again. So there is no two-way communication happening either. But you are able to passively concentrate or focus in on something. You are passively listening. However, active listening starts when you start responding back. So the difference between just passive listening and active listening is there is attention, obviously, but that's not the difference. The difference is that you have now started responding back. So, for example, right now when I'm speaking, you are shaking your head, right? So, what is this doing for me? That this is a response that communicates to me that you are still paying attention, right? So anything you do, even if gesture, so it doesn't have to be verbal. Even when you're responding, active listening has started. So this is a very, very basic foundational understanding of what the from hearing to active listening, what is the chain.
Super, perfect. And why is it that though couples regularly talk to each other, yet they feel unheard?
It's because they're speaking. They may be conversing in English, but they're speaking different languages very often. So what do I mean by that? So essentially, we have to understand if we are communicating, or if, something as simple as like, if I needed a book from you, Nitin, right now, you will need to borrow it or something like that towards me, right? So there is something that needs to come from you to me. That's a transaction. So communication similarly is a transaction that is happening between two people. So I mean, in a most simplistic model, it's a transactional model that you look at. You see it as a transaction. And when you see it as a transaction, you will have to now imagine that there is something that has to be transacted, right? There's something that is moving between two people. Now, if we have to imagine what this thing is, if this let's call it message, right? The message is that is getting transferred between two people. Now, what does this message constitute of? What is this message made up of? Then we have been able to define. It's part of the dot listening methodology that we train people in as well. We have been able to break down the what are you communicating into four basic components. The first, factual information. So among the different things that you're communicating sensory information, verifiable information, things that you can account for as truth in terms of sensory truth, right? So today is Wednesday, right? Or right now I have an AC that is on above my head. So things that can be verified, these are factual information. Second piece of information that we tend to share, type of information that we tend to share, is thoughts, opinions, conclusions. So consider whatever relationship we form between sensory things, what we tend to call as thoughts or a mental map, the meaning. So these are the things that we are sharing. So this is different from factual information, right? Then the third thing that we are sharing is emotional intensity or our current emotional state. Now, the thing to understand is this is different from feelings. Emotional state is essentially how intensely are you experiencing your internal world right now. And this can fluctuate in a conversation. A person can start from yay to calm down and is laughing to. So you can imagine the intensity fluctuation can go up and down. And the fourth component are their feelings. What is the unconscious presence that is there, the deeper, larger ocean of all unprocessed or processed emotions that are present in the person, right? Now these four components, in another way, if I have to explain it to you in a metaphor, imagine when you're communicating, it's a song that is being transferred between two people. And just like anything, like the communication components, a song has four components. First, the words that you hear and you're able to perceive straight away. Second is the meaning that they are trying to show behind the words. तुम इतना जो मुस्कुरा रहे हो क्या गम है जिससे छुपा रहे हो. So simple words but carries a heavy meaning behind it. Third is the tune of the song, the music of the song. Tum itna, so there is the whole build up, there is the whole orchestra, the whole ensemble of the song, the mood that is carried of the song, and something hidden. The fourth component are the sa re ga ma pa of that tune. Is that making sense? So
Yeah.
whatever song the melody is, the melody itself is made up of constituent parts, right? Because the melody is coming from these constituent parts influencing it. Anyway, that's a bit more meta. But the idea is these four components, or a person, when they are communicating, they communicate simultaneously via these four channels, right? Now, point we have to understand is while growing up, Nitin, you grew up utilizing some channels more, some channels less. You were able to perceive the information from some channels more, some channels less. You grew up engaging and working with some channels more, some channels less. Now the thing is, if me, I have been someone who has been more oriented towards factual information or maybe the thoughts of the person. So imagine when someone talks to me, right? Oh, I had a bad day or something like that. They would tell me exactly what happened. Kya kya hua? Tell me, there will be more sensory based information. Or why would you say so? If I'm more into thoughts and conclusions, if someone said I had a bad day, I would be like, what makes you say that? I'm engaging with that. So if you're able to now sense that, what am I engaging with in the person, what the person shared? I'm trying to engage with their thought process, or I'm engaging with the factual information. I'm build, or if someone is more emotional state oriented, what is the current state of the person? And if I come to you and I told you I had a I had a bad day. Now what they may sense more is the fluctuation, right? Like there was a slight quiver in your voice, so it seems very urgent. So they may first ask me, "Are you okay?" Is this making sense? So what am I trying
Yeah.
to
We can.
showcase from this? It's like different people will respond differently to what they may perceive as priority, urgent, and what is being communicated. Now, imagine if these four channels are existing. By the time you are becoming an adult and you have got fluency over certain parts, and your certain parts are not developed. Now, imagine my partner who is more emotion oriented. I'm more factual or critical oriented. Now, what happens? My partner would like to share their day with me. They may tell me, "Oh, I woke up and first thing I banged my foot against the this thing. It was such a painful this thing. And after that, I tried to go to make tea, and I made like I waited. I put ginger and everything. I full koot ke dala. Ye sab kiya. When I put the milk finally in the last 2 minutes when milk had to be put in, चाय फट गया. I'm like, okay, so you had a bad morning start. Because I'm occupied with something and the partner is trying to share all this. I'm thinking, why are they giving me so much information? Right? Because I'm hearing ginger, I'm hearing milk, I'm hearing water, I'm hearing you woke up and you turned left and right. I'm like, this is, I don't need to know this. If you had told me you had a bad morning, I would have been like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So now consider this what happened here, right? When these two people communicated, when I heard my partner share all this, I midway stopped her. So you had a really crappy day, right? So it's okay. Don't worry. Now just force like buck up yourself and focus on the rest of the day. Don't stay on that. And she's like, you're not listening. And I'm like, what? Not listening? I'm in a hurry, and you're telling me 10. So guess where we are going now? A proper fight happened. First thing in by lunchtime, our fight is happening. Now tell me, when I told you that me and my wife, we are speaking in English, but our languages are different. This is what I meant. When my wife was communicating all those little things that had happened, they weren't little things. What she was trying to explain to me or show to me was the intensity of the pain that was felt in all these little pockets, and she wanted to give me all that information, like, look at this, over here it was this, over here it was this. Like, she wanted to share with me not the story, the experience of it, the emotional journey of it. But I'm tuned to listening to the words more, the factual information. I'm like, why does it matter to me what happened, what did you do with ginger, right? Because I am oriented when I hear ginger and this thing. Oh, was the ginger bad? Should I get a new one? Milk went bad. Should I get a new one? So when more interested in factual listening, why? Factual listening, information, I deal with problem solving. But what she wanted was someone to hug her, give her a hug, right? So, but guess what? In this communication, she wanted some love or some connection. She asked for that. I wanted to help by problem solve her and wanted to connect the way I know. She presented her problem. I saw the mathematics in it. I didn't see the emotion in it. She shared her emotion. She's like, he didn't see anything. I shared so much emotion and he's stuck with bloody ginger, right? So will this not lead to poor communication and conflict and everything when you're not even on the same channel? So this was sorry for the long monologue there, but
Completely
having
makes sense, actually.
context to see what happened there.
Plus, many of us, when we hear people around us talk, especially about the challenges and the problems, have a tendency to jump towards helping them resolve that problem, right? And many times it's also because it helps us deal with our insecurities and our discomfort. Because when people around us talk about their discomfort, listening to them, acknowledging that discomfort also means that we need to acknowledge that in spite of our presence, they went through this pain. It doesn't matter whether we were
Exactly.
the cause of the pain or not.
This is such a challenging thing, especially those amongst us who really feel the pain, right? We want to help others, we want to take away people's pain, we want to save them from their pain, and we take on this moral ethical role as well for it. And then when we see the other person is crying and all I want to do is to get their pain away, and for me getting their pain away means getting them to shut up.
Either getting them to shut up or getting them to realize that there's a solution. But in both cases, we are not really allowing them to express and say what they want to, which may not necessarily be the information, but the pain that they're experiencing behind that information. So that's brilliant, Sachin. So that context was important, and it's good that you explained it in that detail, because it does bring to our awareness our own conversations in a day-to-day life where we have probably tried jumping to solutions and not really paid attention to what was the feeling that the person was trying to experience behind it. Super. Brilliant. But before we go ahead, Sachin, can you once again summarize, just list down the four components that you discussed for the viewers?
Yeah. So the four components are: first, factual. In fact, what I've done is, Nitin, I've also used a heuristic tool to kind of make this into a four-dimensional experience. So what we have to look at is, when we are talking about communication and communication components, essentially they are giving us the four dimensions of our experiential reality. What do I mean? So in our experience, we deal with sensory information, verifiable information, the life and sensory information that we deal with. So these constitute factual information. Now I put them, imagine you have, please imagine an x-axis and a y-axis. All right. And imagine on the left hand side of the x-axis, place facts. Consider the positioning to be arbitrary, but it is for us to align ourselves. So on the west, you have factual information. On the north, you have, or the y-axis का जो top part है, you have thoughts and meaning. On the right hand side of the x-axis, that is opposite to factual information, you have emotional state or the emotional intensity. And the fourth component, which is on the y-axis bottom side, which is south, you have feelings. Feelings, deeper values, all would come here, or the unconscious part of human experience would be coming here. And what you're essentially looking at is, now when I've drawn this compass for you, through this, what I'm trying to show you is, like, imagine this x axis and y axis. These four channels that are present are through which you are communicating. When I say that for you to be an effective listener, what you have to be aim is to be a dot listener. What do I mean by that? Is, see, imagine if we take on any of these channels, like on the x axis on the factual side, or on the emotional side, or on the critical, that is the on the thought side, or on the supportive, that is the feeling side. If you are focused more on any one of these zones, what is naturally happening is you are distracted from the other three information points that you are having access to. So when we say dot listening, what we are trying to say, the intersection of this x-axis and the y-axis is a dot. So your aim has to forever be to get your focus in and keep it centered. And try to always, in a conversation, always try to see what is the person trying to communicate. First, is this factual information? Are they thoughts? Is this an emotional state? Or are they sharing deeper feelings with me right now? This comes with practice. That's why we have a 24-hour training modality developed as well. But then this is where, even for me, the conversation on mental health, all those aspects also start, because these are our building blocks of our experience. Sorry, again, I always try to add in a bit more
No,
information.
no, perfect. That makes sense. Super. Um, so now that we've spoken about the components of listening or communication, and we've also spoken about why, in spite of couples talking to each other, they still feel unheard. Let's look at the next one, which is more about what are the key mistakes that couples make while trying to listen to each other.
So it's essentially what I have. It's not just couples, right? It is practically anyone and everyone, right? And when I talk about this, I talk about them as the usual mistakes that we make when we are trying to listen to someone. And so I have identified them as six traps. I'm sure there are more, but these are six of the most common traps that we experience. Where trap one is the one of us being a problem solver. So these are also coming because of, I told you, right, when we have been associated with one channel longer than others, you are taking on the actions of that channel, right? If you're more used to listening to AM channel, then you are more aware of the radio jockeys and the music and the type of news and everything that comes on AM channel. So in the same form, because if you are more used to factual information, one of the challenges that you may face, the traps that you may fall into, is that of a problem solver. The problem solving is what it may sound like. Have you tried? Where anyone shares anything, and some of the things you would share is, have you tried? You should. Here's what I would do. So if, when you're listening to someone and these are the responses that come out of you more than anything, right? Is the trap that you're falling into. For you to be useful, you want to solve their perceived problem, at least the problem that you have perceived, you want to solve it. The second trap is that of a story collector. Now, this trap also looks like good listening because there's a lot of questions that kept getting asked. But unfortunately, the story collector is someone who is asking you so many questions, it feels like you're getting interrogated now. Where the person believes, like, for me to help this person, I really need to understand the problem they are facing. So, for me to get the problem, I need to get all the details of that problem that they are facing, right? So they will be more, when did this happen, who else was there, when did, and then what happened, and then who came in there. So all factual information, who, when, what, and going to details, very often that may be unnecessary or uncomfortable for the person to share even, right? This is the second trap, that of a story collector. So being too inquisitive. The next one is that of a sympathy performer. Now, what does a sympathy performer do? Now, this is the person who may sound very exaggerated or even mildly condescending when you share anything painful with them, or the over dramatized ones that we may kind of think of. So we share something, oh, I lost my pen today. Oh my God. And like, there is a lot of emotional this thing, or there may be emotion coming without any authenticity behind it. So it's like you may share something, but they are just responding to the sound itself, but there is no content, the person, the authenticity, you don't feel it to be authentic, you feel like it's a performance. So this is a person who has tried to be supportive quite often, so now it's like validation is the first thing that they do without really. Or like, for example, I'm sharing multiple things that have gone wrong in my life. Now, one of the challenges, they may see, oh, you poor thing, I feel so bad for you. Now, I may not really enjoy hearing this because I don't necessarily feel the need to feel bad for. So this takes that over sympathizing, where I'm not appreciating the sympathy that you're showing. Trap four is that of an expert. Now, this may almost seem like the problem solver, but the expert is the one who's like the guru. It's not necessarily problem solving, but it is about sharing wisdom with everything. Whenever you share any problem, what they come up with is, life is all about. So it's these wisdom tales that they may bring up. Again, it's almost similar to that of a problem solver, but problem solver is more factually oriented, like ये चीज का ये solution है, ये नहीं करना है. But the wise person over here, the expert, is someone who shares more wisdom. And trap five is that of an avoider, where as soon as the other person is sharing something that feels a bit more serious, feels a bit more heavy, and our first impulse is to try and distract the person, try to talk about a small topic and not engage with the heaviness of the topic. We tend, these type of people would more or less believe like, oh, why talk about this heavy stuff and spoil the mood? Or I am helping by not going into heavy stuff. So we only stick to light stuff, and light stuff will be nice stuff. So this avoider is the person who is essentially who may talk like, let's talk about something else, look on the bright side, I'm sure it's not that bad, or simply just changing the subject, right? And finally, the savior. Now, the savior is the one, just they are the advanced version of the uh, they are the advanced version of the avoider. So the avoider is trying to make you feel good by not getting you to experience what you're going through. But the savior is the one, oh, you're going through this, then I'm going to make it all better, and now suddenly your life is not your life, and this person has taken on the responsibility of your life for you. So this can be like a person essentially inserting themselves as a parental figure, and again, not something that most of us may find comforting or helpful necessarily. So the challenge over here is, Nitin, these six traps that I've mentioned, you can get used to it, and you can get so badly used to it, right? You don't even see yourself making these. But now imagine an avoider or a problem solver or a fixer or a expert. The Imagine your partner being a fixer in every communication that you are in. Imagine your partner, or on the other side, the your partner is your savior in every conversation. At what point does that start grating your grills? At what point does that start building a bit of antipathy there? So, some of the common mistakes, I think it is literally these are the basic mistakes that we all tend to make. But when it comes to being a couple or being a partner, the challenge becomes repetition. इन चीजों का repetition जितना ज्यादा हो रहा है, now I'm only able to see this person as being a savior. Because I will not see them as anything else, like, oh, you only trying to fix me. What do you think I need fixing? I'm broken. What's wrong with you? So this can every one of these traps can lead to its own set of issues, if that makes sense.
Super, brilliant. So, each of these traps, like you mentioned, we all have been guilty of either. Um,
Which has been your favorite?
Mostly, I see a lot of people with wisdom and savior around me. Right? Um, Even in conversation, but that's also because predominantly we are surrounded by people who are psychologists or people who are working in that space. So वैसे भी उस space के अंदर
थोड़ा
that
एनालिसिस ज्यादा हो जाता है.
right. So that's brilliant. Um, I, there was something that I wanted to check with you, which was about so while you've spoken about these six traps, um, there's also times when people get into something like an emotional reactivity
Hmm.
space, right? Can you explain that a bit? How does that fall into these traps, and uh, how does that influence someone's ability to listen?
Wonderful. So, Nitin, when I mention these six traps, right? We have to understand that these traps are unconscious to us, right? And when we say emotional reactivity, these are almost unconscious reactions from us. So you have to understand all of these have the biggest connection, because whenever I am feeling overwhelmed, or even slightly overwhelmed, elevated, underwhelmed as well, that's when these traps will become more evident. What do I mean? The more energy, resource, non reactive, calm I am, that much more awareness I am able to maintain for my thoughts and my action. Reactivity is very often is I would like to think of reactivity as a symptom. Obviously, I'm simplifying a much larger concept here. But when I'm talking about reactivity, we are essentially saying that either the resources are challenged, the person's, when I say resources, they're right from the emotion, all of these resources we have to understand. So there is some challenge there somewhere. So they have to respond with not unprocessed, but dormant or existing auto beliefs that they are having. They have to revert to them, right? My core, these things. Now, whatever you have been practicing the most is what you have got an expertise in. If and in this, consider we had also had a conversation on childhood traumas and things like that. So we have to look at when we are having these traps. There is a reason when I say that most of us carry these traps. They are not doing this out of malice, or each of them is trying to be of help in their own little way. But you have to consider, for example, a problem solver. Very often the underlying need for a problem solver is the need to feel useful. That this, if someone comes to me, why do I have this need to fix it, right? So there is I'm not saying, I'm not diagnosing the world here. I'm saying very often what you will see, there is this connection with need to feel useful. I need to fix things to get my sense of worth. So similarly, when we are looking at the story collector, where the person feels the need to be informed, I need to know all the moving components, otherwise I will not be able to come to a conclusion. And sure, you can have this, it makes sense, but why is it so important for you? What happens when it becomes so important for you that everything else loses its urgency and it only becomes about collection of that story, right? So similarly, what we have to be able to see is these traps will also give us information about myself. My partner's traps, if I, instead of labeling them as like, oh my god, this person is just trying to be my mother, if you try to identify what are these traits that are being shown, what are these behaviors, and what are they implying, and when we see these four components and you get to see, oh, this person is on FM, I'm on AM, of course we are not supposed to be understandable to each other. Then begins the journey of coming to the dot, where both are able to now, let's come to the center. Let me first try to see, oh, there is more information than factual information that you were trying to give me. I wasn't even aware. Similarly, oh, when you were sharing, I was trying to tell you how I was feeling, not trying to tell you that you are the reason for me feeling this way. I have enough intelligence to do that. But when I'm experiencing this intensity, it needs ventilation. So these four components, these traps will also tell you what needs more, which of these zones. For example, if it is factual information, when Nitin is sharing factual information with me, what do I need to do? When they are sharing their opinions or thoughts with me, what is an ideal response? If they are sharing their pain with me, because intensity majority of the time will denote either pleasure or pain. So when they are sharing that with me, what am I supposed to do? And when they're sharing the deeper inner climate with me, what am I supposed to do? So hence, it's not just one thing to be done. These traps, we are all, because of our practice, and when we emotional reactivity, when it happens, these traps become that much more obvious. They become that much more frequent.
Perfect. So while we've discussed about how it can also give us insights about ourselves, if I understand you correctly, emotional reactivity would represent both the emotions that I'm experiencing that may prevent me from listening to my partner more clearly, more carefully. And second, what is the emotional void or emotional need that I have, which
Exactly.
drives me towards a particular response pattern, which one of the patterns that you've basically categorized in terms of the key mistakes or the traps that we fall into. Would
Yes.
that be correct?
Yes.
Super. Perfect. So
And
apart
again,
from
these are not again to be identified with, oh, I am a savior. No, you see the traits, see characteristics that you are showing. These traits, that doesn't mean this is you. This is one set of characteristics you are showing. You can build others.
perfect. So also for all of you who may be watching us right now or who may watch us later on, um, so while Sachin is explaining both our reactions, our responses, and the probable reasons why we are using a particular trap more frequently than other traps, please don't generalize into believing that because I'm using a particular trap, this is the only explanation. This
Right.
is an example that we are providing you to help you understand how the current response itself is driven by something deeper. Now, the example that we are taking may apply to you as it is, or there may be other factors that may come into play. So just don't blindly apply it, but it's simply an indicator for you to explore further.
Yes. And you are
Perfect.
able to have a
So,
much more meaningful conversation about you. I mean, because the main question, right? Who am I? What is it that makes me tick? What do I like? What do I dislike? If you don't know the systems that you are utilizing, if you're only aware of your career as a system and education as a system, you're only dealing with that currency. You're not looking at any other skill, because you're only seeing my education is the only thing that helps me grow. One component. But your tools, your skills, your communication become that much more core and that much more important for you to work on, because even through education, these traps that you may fall in, you will not be able to help yourself through them, if that makes sense.
super. Perfect. So now that we have discussed emotional reactivity, what are the other things that influence our ability to listen carefully or clearly? When I say what are the other things, what I'm looking at is there could be past experiences, there could be some other baggages that we are carrying from the past. There could also be the assumptions and the interpretations that we carry. Are there such other factors that we need to also look out for, which are preventing our ability to listen to our partners clearly?
So See, sometimes we underestimate the channel of communication. Like, for example, if the person is sitting in front of me, so there could be multiple barriers. Like one of the most common barriers, you're not speaking the same language or you're not speaking on the same channel. This automatically clears up a lot. But then other barriers that can come in or that can act as barriers where you are. Like, for example, the environment in which you are, that has an impact. For example, I'm a person who doesn't do well in a hot climate, right? And if me and my partner are trying to have a meaningful conversation and I'm sweating here, I will be already in a bit of a jumpy mood. I'll already be a bit irritated at that point of time. To have a meaningful, in depth, or a life altering conversation may not be the best time there. So, something as simple as that. But my partner who enjoys hot weather may not even consider that this is something that is really bothering me, right? Because this is not something I consider important for me. So we may not see the significance of it for the other person. I'm just giving a very, again, it's an example, it's not always the case, right? So your physical environment, your mode of communication, the network se leke sare cheez, your language, the words that you use, your background in terms of how, like, I may use quite a few bad words, right? There may be some people when I'm friendly with, I may use a lot of bad words, laugh it off, and all are having fun. But there may be some people, they may laugh it off at that time, but inside they are not really quite enjoying because the language of it wasn't something that they appreciated. So understanding language and the words that you use, is it contextually relevant for that person, the people, all of the, again, very simplistic, but something very important still. uh, Rest you kind of mentioned anyways, the biases, stereotypes, baggages, judgments, assumptions that we tend to carry cause a lot of these things. But I would like to kind of put in here is, when we talk about biases aren't just about things that you consider are negative in the world. Anything that you are consider is good in the world is also to be considered as a bias. Now this is unfortunately, like, as a professional you are aware of this, certainly, right? But in my day-to-day conversations, things that we tend to hold as good, we kind of give them a free rein. So we don't tend to question those beliefs or values that we almost feel are fundamental now. And this is where challenges come in, because you may carry a belief that felt very right when you said it out loud, which was, nobody is trustworthy. You went through a traumatic situation and you felt betrayed and all of that, and at that time this felt like Brahma Sutra, right? This is Akashvani. Nobody is trustworthy. Koi tera koi nahi hai, koi kisi ka nahi hai. Yes, it felt like it. Didn't make it true. Right? But now my association with this would be, I may slowly start disconnecting with people. I may not engage with people in those levels. I may not allow myself to have a deep conversation. Most of my conversations may be on the superficial level, like the avoider. Oh, why are you talking about such heavy stuff? Why talk about crisis or suicide or accident? I mean, life's good, man. Just chill. One day you will be gone anyways. So these all sound like proper pearls of wisdom, but my friend, you're operating out of either trauma or practice. So you need to really consider whether this blissful and amazingly rose tinted life that I'm living, is it just rose tinted for me and I've made it like that, or is it for everyone around me? And those social cues are important. So social, environmental, physical, including language, as well as all these biases, judgments that we have spoken about. These stop us from listening. And obviously, the traps that we spoke about earlier.
Okay, so now that we've spoken about these traps, we've spoken about the different categories of uh, influences that affect our ability to listen to our partners. Uh, there's one thing that I wanted to also check with you, which was more about defensiveness, right? So while I understand there are these traps, I also understand there are these influences, but why is it that there are so many times that even when our partners are talking about something completely not related to us, we have a tendency to become very defensive. And that defensiveness then just comes in the way of being able to understand our partners and explain ourselves to our partner effectively. Why is this defensiveness such an inherent part of relationships and conversation.
So again, this is our perception, right? Defensiveness. What? So we have now framed in our mind that there is something known as defensiveness, and this is a result of something happening. So again, there is a lot of generalization that we may need to do here. So when we say defensiveness towards my partner, they are not saying something. So I know I pick up all the crisis examples only, but imagine the conversation where I may be going through a extremely tough mental health period. Okay. During this time, I may have even undergone depression, going through depression, but I have been functional my whole life, and this is one thing I've. So there is a challenge I may feel towards showing that side as weak towards my partner, because I have taken on the identity that of a partner who's going to save and help and be as a strong, that my partner will always feel safe with me. So when I've taken on this identity, and now when I'm experiencing crisis, and now this is presenting itself as intrusive thoughts like suicidal thoughts. Now, Nitin, I may struggle to say this to my partner, but something I may be carrying that stress, that reactivity from our previous thing that I'm talking about. If I'm already in a reactive state, why? There is pain I'm experiencing, emotional, psychological pain. My partner says something, and I end up telling her like, I have been having, I've been thinking, I would rather kill myself. Now the challenge here is, Nitin, will my partner understand that this has got nothing to do with them? Because the enmeshment between two people when you're partners is so high. When I tell my partner I'm having suicidal thoughts, what they will hear is, wasn't my love enough? What did I do wrong? So again, this is based on the trap that you have. So if this person is sharing a negative feeling with me, what they're telling me is to change myself so that I can accommodate or help them go through. No, that is not the communication that happened here. This is your trap telling you that this is what the person is asking you to. However, a healthier communication would have involved, you said, if my partner were to tell me, I feel like killing myself. If you don't do this, I would rather kill myself. What is more useful for me to check is, hey, you said suicide, or you said about killing yourself. I, I, I didn't realize you're going through so much pain. Do you want to tell me more? I know it may, sometimes I feel like you're blaming me, but right now I feel like you're sharing your pain with me, and I want to be listening to that. I assure you, I will not take it on me as if you're blaming me. I will listen to you. What is this enabling? Like you have, but these are things you will have to manually practice. Just because when you have seen, when the teacher showed anger, it was my fault. I had to fix it. When my parents were upset with me on something that I'm doing this, I feel bad, you did this, they were asking me to change. So when my partner is doing the same, I'm still expecting that they are asking me to change. And if I love someone so much, why would they want me to change? Can't they accept me for who am I? All of these, again, enmeshments and challenges that are coming out of it. You hit the nail on the head. The person hasn't told you to do that. The question will be, where is your thought process coming from that I need to defend myself? Why am I feeling accused of or blamed here? And sometimes these rules or these boundaries on, okay, when this happens, what, how do I go about, maybe things you need to discuss when you're calm, so that you, when this happens, I feel accused, but I feel like you're not trying to do that. How do we manage that? And Nitin, I assure you, like people who have gone through our training, I'm not trying to do an advert here. I've had people gone through our training, they came for being able to provide emotional support to other people, but they go back saying, Sachin, today, um, me and my wife, I wanted to share this thing with you because me and my wife, we sat down today, and she said something, and I responded, and one or two things happened, and I just got that sinking feeling that this is gonna go back down that same road of fight that we have been having. And as someone who's been in long term relationship, I understand what the person is meaning. Even your fights almost seem like similar. It's the same fight, different scenarios, different objects of conflict, but it's the same fight you're having every single time. But this time, Sachin, suddenly, when you ask me, just pause here, for just pause and just check with yourself, what is she trying to tell me? And even though we started fighting, I just took a moment. I told her, I think you're going through a lot right now, and I can sense that. Tell me more. Sachin, she ended up sharing. She cried. She was being, she was saying things to me as well, but she went through that. And I was just like, no, no, go on, tell me more. Tell me. And she was saying bad things to my face as well. And I was like, no, go on, still go on. After that, she came up to me, she kissed me, and she told me, you really listened to me this time. I love you so much. So, all these things that she was telling me right now, they weren't information for me. Those weren't remarks for me. Those weren't information for me to figure out. Those were the remnants of the things that she had to throw out after, while she's processing, right? There's an information overload. I'm processing, but this is the shit that remained. I need to throw it out. Guess where I throw it out? To my partner. But if I'm able to just hold that space there, everything changed.
Right, perfect. So, which, in summary, all the factors that we spoke about that prevent us from being able to listen to our partners carefully are actually the same factors that contribute to us becoming defensive. In many ways, those factors are reflected in the defensiveness that we are experiencing during
Exactly.
conversation with our
When we
partner.
have that traumatic injury and that belief that is stuck there, what does it do? It slowly starts permeating through other games and other social aspects, or social levels of your life. So it is like that virus that then eventually spreads across. So it is this same trap, but how does it showcase itself in your interaction with your boss, and how does it showcase itself in your interaction with your child and your wife? So, but again, it's not just always going to be one trap, it's always a
So,
mix.
perfect. And okay, so now that we have discussed about defensiveness, we've discussed about the key things that stop us from being able to listen to our partners clearly. If there were specific signs that you can list down, which uh, which are indicators that active listening is not happening in the relationship, what would those signs be?
I mean, the simplest sign is if you're having, I mean, I feel if you're having to hide things from your partner, and I feel like these things, there are already rules made in the world where they say, no, you are supposed to hide things from your partner. You are not supposed to be completely out there. No, I mean, if you have to hide a lot, if you have to lie from them to manage them or to keep them safe, no matter which way, right? Because this active listening also operates on on core four principles. They are of honesty, it needs acceptance, it needs compassion, and it needs curiosity, right? Honesty in terms of what I share with my partner, the partner should be able to trust that that information will not be false. Acceptance of my partner's belief systems that may be there, of their deeper unconscious feelings that are there. They are not, it's not about taking it and agreeing with them, but accepting them and showing curiosities, what are these mental models that they have, to these beliefs and rules and conclusions that they have, showing a childlike curiosity towards them to kind of better understand what are their thought processes like. It's not to judge them, it is to understand. Showing compassion to their pain. So whenever you sense pain, you have to be able to show compassion towards that. And fourth, of accepting their deeper feelings. They are not just a person, they are a set of, deeper feelings that makes up who they are, the whole personality. Showing acceptance to these deeper, darker places as well. When I'm able to feel that my partner can be there for me in my dark times, Am I able to truly be able to accommodate them in my good times as well? Otherwise, I'm a performer who gives. When I'm good, I give as a performer, but when I'm in a bad place, I'm not able to ask, or I don't have the vocabulary to ask for help. So these are the challenges. So lying, hiding, if you're having to um, keep the partner happy, or manipulate them into happiness or things like that, is where I would say communication is really suffering. You are having to manage them. Then it's not communication between two adults, it is someone is being a parent and a child.
All right, super, perfect. Okay, so I think those are good indicators to keep in mind as to just initiate a process of introspection to understand what I can do differently to ensure that my partner feels heard and that I am able to communicate with my partner and I can feel heard in this equation, in this relationship. Super. Now that you've spoken, so we've been speaking about what is active listening, what are the problems that stop us from listening to people clearly and effectively. Let's just quickly also start moving towards what next, right? So first, what role does self-awareness play in in helping individuals become better listeners?
Okay. Now, I would like to clarify what the self awareness means over here. Very often, if your self awareness is only identification with your ego, means I am a counselor, I'm a this, I'm a good mother, and your awareness is only about your identities, then it is of not much help. Your awareness without action is pointless. I've seen people turn into insight junkies, but all this insight and all this wisdom, and you haven't taken any steps to help yourself. So, self awareness, can it help? 100%. It cannot happen without self awareness. But when we talk about self awareness, it is not about the different designations, labels that you are, but about your systems that you're part of. Just like you are aware about what can your hand do and what it can't, right? So self awareness, I have awareness about the uses of my hand and its boundaries. So I know if I'm going to have a arm wrestling match with Nitin, how I may be, and if I'm going to have an arm wrestling match with a 5-year old, how will I be? This is what will help me organize myself and channel myself that much better. But imagine if I don't know anything about my hand. Arm wrestling is itself a new concept for me then, right? So self-awareness would mean, for example, in this regard, the 4 dimensions that I mentioned, these 4 parts, are you able to bifurcate when you're listening to someone share something? Do you know what they are speaking right now? This is one of the primary skills one needs to be able to see. What is it that the person has shared? Not in terms of content context, but in terms of its etymology itself. Like वो है क्या, इसका मतलब क्या है, right? So when we are talking about factual information, thoughts, okay, right now what Nitin is sharing, like for example, I'm saying, Nitin, can you really help me book a flight ASAP to Kerala? There's like I'm in shitloads of trouble, right? So when you heard this, you may hear the whole thing and you would be like, whoa, there's a lot happening there. But take a pause and you'll be able to break this down. You'll be able to say something has happened. What is the person going through? The person wanting to go to Kerala, they need a flight ticket. Somehow they're asking me to get it, and they're saying something bad has happened. Factual information, but it's not it. Right? The person also meant shit's hit the fan. So what does that mean? Oh, I think the person is conveying something major has happened. They conveyed it in a tone which was urgent. So there's something really bad may have happened. So what is these? So what? I'm not gonna be like, tell me in detail all the things that happened. How are you feeling right now? If I start exploring these things right now, he will slap me. Now, like, are you of any help to me? Because I didn't hear what the person was trying to say, right? But over here, the person, okay, I'm your best friend. Yes, I heard you. I think, okay, of trouble. I can book the ticket. While I'm doing that, you want to tell me what's up? and I'll start booking. So you will, this is how you will need to be able to respond, considering self awareness in these aspects. What is the other person also sharing with me? What am I good at? What are the areas I can improve on? And then I take steps to work on them. Otherwise, self awareness is pointless.
Okay, so as an extension of self awareness, what are the simple habits that um, couples can practice to
So
incorporate active listening as a part of their
I think
life?
in communication, being able to understand these four aspects will also give them those tools to speak about it. Like, for example, if my wife is able to come and tell me, hey, I had a very rough morning and I want to talk through it with you, her being able to know that this is something I can go to my husband with. And but he needs to understand that this is not a system. She needs to understand that this is not a system he's used to. So, but when I give him that introduction, he's able to, oh, that means zip, listen, and agree or validate the pain or anything like that. I can organize myself right now or tune myself in. Or if I'm really busy right now, I may be able to say, baby, right now my mind is really occupied with a lot of stuff and there's a lot of calculations going and I'm a bit lost in that. I may not be able to provide you with this service. Can we do this in half an hour? I'll take a shower and come back and we can do this aram se. Great. Did the person now and understand this in this equation? My wife didn't get what she wanted, and I'm also not continuing to do what I was doing. But we are both having a better communication.
True.
Is that making sense? Her need didn't get met. My continuous process also got stopped. But guess what? This is what communication can look like. That it's not about winning. It's not about managing or compromising. It's about, have I first need to build that trust that when I'm sharing this thing, does the person trust me enough that I have considered them? Or right now, I'm not going to consider you. I'm only going to throw up. You better catch it. But our communication, our reasons for communication are all much more clearer. Will
You know,
that
it's
mean
so
that I won't
interesting.
have fights? Of course not. There will be days where we both are on an emotional high. Communication has gone out of the box. You're throwing stuff around and all of that. But when everything calms down, you are still able to connect? Whoa, that was really bad, huh? What happened there? Let's do a postmortem on what happened. Instead of accusing each other, being able to see, oh, you were coming from this sensitivity. I was coming from this sense. It's a very mm, I feel a very rejuvenating conversation that you can actually have, even around complex topics.
So it's interesting, right? Two things. One, many a times people either after conflicts go into the accusatory mode. You were wrong at this and you did this, or they completely try to avoid the topic on which the conflict happened. Both equally is preventing you from having clearer conversation, and more importantly, in both cases, you don't feel hurt,
Yes,
nor does the partner feel hurt.
yes,
Because if you're accusing each other, then obviously you're not listening to each other. And if you're avoiding the conversation, the other person doesn't even have a chance to be able to express what they need to express.
express.
So what Sachin mentioned, that's a very good idea. That obviously not while you're having a fight. Maybe that's not the place to objectively sit and discuss what you can do differently. But
Not
once the fight
possible.
is
I mean,
over,
I wouldn't say it is possible without practice.
correct. So, but once the fight is over, both of you have calmed down, right? It may be a good idea to just take a step back and see if you can have a conversation about the topic and find what went wrong and how you can go ahead with it. And when I say what went wrong, I'm saying what and not who. So
Oh,
that distinction is extremely important.
and over here, it is important. Like one thing I've seen, which is very helpful, is instead of pointing out what the other person has done wrong, what is help or what the other person did that made you feel bad, is to be able to clearly say, when I think this or when I believe this, I feel this. When I think that you didn't care about me in this situation, I feel this way. Now over here, I think this. So it's not that you did this. I think this allows you to be able to see that there are some things that happened that led me to believe that this is a possibility that is possible. And in me and my partner's case, this just simply allows me to say, oh, you thought that, but I was thinking this. I was coming from this completely different. Oh, wow, this is so different. Where we were approaching the elephant from, you were approaching from the head, I was approaching the elephant from the tail. And we both now can see, all right, so you didn't mean anything bad towards me. You were trying to be helpful, but you were feeling very challenged. And I was not able to be in a calmer space because I was carrying some load from the previous thing. I am sorry. And I know you are sorry for, being that way. But I'm thankful I'm having this conversation. Now, one of the biggest challenges in this conversation, Nitin, is the awkwardness of starting this conversation,
Yeah, true.
right? The awkwardness of like, who will bell the cat? And very often I've seen people then drift into that, like, Arey, I go in as a peacemaker, but now I'm known as the person who will always say sorry first. I don't want to say sorry first. So now new game starts. Let me try in this fight now. I will not say sorry. And I will see if my partner doesn't say sorry this time now, I'll be like, no. Then fine. Whatever happens to the relationship, I don't care. Last 5 times I remember I said sorry first. So it's not about accommodating and managing your partner. Then you will develop these unconscious contracts. So आपको बड़े बन के नहीं सॉल्व करना है, आपको उन्हें भी एंगेज करते हुए इसे सॉल्व करना है. मैं बड़प्पन नहीं दिखाता हूं, मुझे ये दिखाना है कि मैं तेरे जैसा ही हूं, अलग हूं इन द सेंस कि
Super.
आप भी किधर से आए हो, मैं भी आया हूं, दोनों में कोई राइट रॉन्ग नहीं है, ये भी समझना है. So it's a long journey. However, these conversations help.
Super. So, while we're talking about active listening, and it's important that you're able to listen to your partner clearly, and you're actively engaging with your partner while you're listening to them. What Sachin right now mentioned is also about you being able to speak to your partner when it's required to speak to them. Obviously, there's an it's an extension of listening, because only when you feel that your partner listens to you, you will be comfortable talking to them, and only when you can make your partner feel heard would you be able to. Sorry, just a second. Would you be able to provide that space, hold that space for them where they come and talk to you, right? Um, as an extension of this, we follow certain rules, right? We recommend these rules to almost all people who discuss communication in a couple's relationship, and these are extension of what we have discussed right now.
Yeah.
One of them is focus on here and now. So even after the conflict happens with your partner, and you're trying to sit and discuss what you have to discuss. They don't talk about 10 साल पहले ऐसा हुआ था, because there's not much that can be done about it right now. Today you had a conflict. See if you can begin by focusing on what's happened here and now. Second would be focus on I messages. So again, like Sachin mentioned earlier, that don't begin by saying this is where you were wrong. Begin by explaining and exploring what you felt. So I felt sad about whatever happened. I felt unheard because there were certain things that I wanted to speak. So the focus is on what you are experiencing and what you are feeling, which also allows your partner to realize that, all right, it's not as much about them. It's more about what you are going through right now. And the way to address challenges, or the way we respond when someone tells me you did this. So I'm thinking, what can I do differently? As opposed to, I felt sad. Okay, what can I do to make you feel happier
But
now?
now there are advanced versions of this as well, where if when you know that you want to kind of put the dagger in, so you'll be like, yeah, I feel I got betrayed by my
Yeah,
partner.
correct. That's still okay, because when you say I feel I've got betrayed, hoping you're talking to your own partner, right? So if you were to say I feel betrayed by you, right? I'm still looking at, all right, so you felt betrayed, right? Let me first do something to make you feel better. Then we can have a discussion, because while you're feeling betrayed, if I try to have this conversation with you, this conversation is not going anywhere. So
Right.
at least know what I need to do to bring you to a place where we can have this conversation further,
You have to apologize.
which is okay as long as, right? In my head, I know that I'm doing this so that we can carry forward this conversation. And obviously, there would be a place where I can set a boundary and I can tell you that, all right, this is what I also feel. When we are having a conversation about your feelings, doesn't mean that I don't have to talk about my feelings, right? But I can also say it in exactly the same way. You know what? When you're constantly telling me that I am wrong, and maybe I understand that you don't mean it that way, or maybe you do, I don't know. When we have a conversation, I'll understand. But right now, I feel as if I'm being targeted. So as long as I and you or the two people in that relationship are able to focus on their feelings first, beyond the point you start realizing, "Acha, theek hai, let's just allow these feelings to settle down because we are just both so hyper
This is
that
the
this
challenging
conversation
part,
can't
man,
go on."
Nitin. This is the challenging part. Like, we have just ignored feelings. as as a population, I feel like we have just completely, I mean, I know over 70% of us are alexithymic, like we can't articulate our feelings. But I people claim, oh, I am emotionless. I'm like, what nonsense are you? Do you even understand what you're speaking? Right? And even amongst men and women. So for example, I may have people who would, if their wives were to tell them I feel betrayed, they still find this as an accusation. Oh, you are telling me I betrayed you. When did I betray you? Again, that thing is
Correct,
happening because that feelings
but
language
Sachin,
has
what
not permeated.
which is true, but what happens is when it comes to rules of communication, the whole idea of rules of communication is that it's communicate. The rules of communication is the first communication that partners do with each other. So it's not that I'm communicating this to you and I'm saying that I feel betrayed. Is the first thing that I would say. I would sit with you when we are both in a normal, considerably objective state of mind and discuss the rules of communication. That we have been having a lot of conflicts of late. I've been exploring how we want what we can do to understand each other better. And I've realized there's this one model that really benefits people who want to explain and understand each other better. I wanted to have your opinion on this. Do you think we can incorporate this in our life? So it all begins from there. And once both partners understand this, then the chances that you will personalize it when partner is talking about their own feelings is unlikely because this communication has already gone on,
Yeah.
right?
So,
And then
I
as
mean,
an extension of
here's
this,
hoping. Because what I've observed is pain और logic साथ में नहीं काम करते ज्यादा, है ना? Audio has gone. There's a lot of interference. There's echo and it's a bit machiny. The sound is gone.
okay, is it better now?
Oh yeah, perfect.
So I was saying that everything that we have discussed, eventually there would need to be a place where both partners are willing to accommodate each other.
Right.
So at some level, the whole journey is for us to be able to bridge that gap between logic and emotions,
Yeah.
right? While respecting emotions where it needs to be respected, and at the same time realizing that logic has its own space. It can't, matlab, your conversations cannot be
Exactly.
lift of logic
Exactly.
as well. And the last couple of things that we also speak about is that focus on specifics and please don't bunch and dump. जब से मेरी तुमसे शादी हुई है अब से तो मेरी जिंदगी बर्बाद हो गई मतलब you
So every time
please
I have a fight, I will give you a summary of the fights and the score, and then I will add to that. No, so you don't have to keep a running scorecard of the things as well.
done.
So I
Perfect.
think
So Sachin,
when they are able to have that conversation, and still we kind of realize that what I'm doing right now is listening with only one or two or maximum three channels. There is literally a fourth channel missing. till then we don't even know what we have been missing. And maybe very often the relationship uh, is not going bad because of the other person or me. It is because, well, you both are not speaking the same language. And when
Super.
we fix those basics, I think that's always potential for growth.
Perfect. So, which brings us to the last question. We've already gone overboard. We are almost 1 hour, 15 minutes now. So, the last question, if there was one mindset shift that you feel couples need to create, which will help them move from reacting to genuinely listening, what would that
I think as couples now, because we are, again, these are just my opinions that I've built through on ground work. But what I've seen more and more is couples are haven't really thought of a lifetime as a period of time. Like what, as simple as, do I see myself with this person at 60, at 70? Right? It's a very simple, I feel it's a very simple question, but I do feel like it's not been reflected over. Like if I am seeing this person with me till I'm 60, I have to find a way to find this person interesting, engaging, beautiful, attractive, and helpful to me in my life, and and me to be of help to them, so that at 60 I don't even want to say the words, and they should know what I am, and I should know what they are. I need to have a long term and a team look towards my partner, not the codependency. Unfortunately, I feel there is that enmeshment happens because you guys have do not know the language of feelings, and it's just all over the place. And either avoider is living with a provider, and vice versa, and whatnot. A challenge being that I need to see this, and I need to be able to convey and communicate this dream, or build this dream with my partner, that this is us at 70, 90, and whatnot. And we both are the stakeholders, or essentially the stakeholders who can aim for that. And for that, we both can't have facing each other. We need to be facing some other way.
together in the
But
same
this is
direction?
not a ride or die situation. The ride or die, I feel like it's you're just emotionally high. Your logic is completely left the building. No, it needs to be responsible relationships, and seeing that this partner, I need to have an emotional and an intellectual and a spiritual. Again, I'm not necessarily saying that you both need to have the same God. It's about your ideas about what life is, what love is, and relationships are, and what are. Do you have similar uh, essence or similar beliefs? Or if they are not, do you know what the other persons are? Because over time, you are not going to be fighting over egg or not. Your essentially your beliefs are going to be that are going to be interacting over time. When you have seen everything that the partner has, and the partner has seen everything, you're naked. Your core beliefs are what is on access, on display to the other person. And unless you have worked at the superficial bits, when you reach the deep bit, if you want that same understanding, acceptance, and all of these things to be maintained, you need to do it at the small things too. And these are very conscious things. So lying, keeping stuff, hiding, all of these, which we tend to very funnily think that it's a very normal thing, we need to really, really relook at our priorities.
Super. Perfect. So we've had a really interesting conversation today. We've spoken about listening and active listening in depth. We've spoken about the what active listening is, why it's important as far as especially relationships is concerned. Why is it that people find it difficult to actively listen to their partners in a conversation? What traps that we fall into? Why do we become so defensive in our relationships? We discussed about self-awareness. We discussed about the small habits that we can develop and the mindset shift that we can. We have already gone overboard, like I mentioned earlier. This was a very interesting conversation, Sachin.
Thank
A
you so
lot
much.
to contemplate, a lot to think about. I'm sure many of you who are listening to us now would listen to us later, would have specific actions, tips that you can begin to incorporate in your own relationships. I'm sure there are places where what we discussed would have reminded you of specific conversations, specific conflicts in your own lives, which would have kind of brought them in front of you and you would have realized, oh, what I did and what I could have done differently. Hopefully, going forward, many of these things will help you prevent conflict, to be able to cope up with those conflicts and return to a more amicable relationship between you and your partner. Looking forward to having you
And that's the
with more such
challenge, right, Nitin?
conversations next Wednesday. Sachin, I बोल रहे
No,
थे.
I was
That's the
saying
challenge.
it's just this, right? Most of the conversation, there is no conflict. It is miscommunication. And this is why when actual conflict is there is an actual difference in opinion, belief, and when your life is meeting their life for the first time, if you haven't built up on this, if you haven't worked on communication, conflict will be much worse for you to go through or handle. So
True.
it's getting your basics right. But thank you so much for having me. This is my life's work as well, Nitin. I'm actually in the process of almost completing a draft of the book regarding the subject as well, and I would probably use this opportunity to ask you, would you be able to give me go through the book and give me your feedback as well, your thoughts, so I can
Would
work on.
love to. So please share it with me, and I would love to go through it and share my
Thank you
feedback
so
with you.
much.
Chale. Thank you everyone. Looking forward to seeing you all next week. Bye bye. Take care. Good night.
Good night, guys.